I got approached by a predatory distributor, and that kind of pushed me into wanting to do it on my own. There wasn't necessarily a budget, but I spent around a little over $15,000, the US dollars. The sound, I would say, is probably the biggest hurdle that made me want to quit. It didn't do much for a long time, and then I got on Tubi, and that's kind of when everything changed. So I made 85.4% of the budget back. Like, if you're gonna spend $10,000 making a feature film, like, I think you need to just be okay with never seeing that money again.
3, 2, 1, action. How many hours? How many days? The life of a lifetime for nothing, they say. All in the effort, it's just a phase. Why do you bother? They can't see it your way.
It would be pretty easy. A lot of the players would hit don't take the game seriously enough to be any good.
Everybody up!
So as long as I don't do anything crazy, I can be in there long enough to not look suspicious.
It's pretty impressive how much you've thought this through.
She sometimes leads you on to get you to do things that she wants.
Try to get another game lined up. I want to do this again real soon.
Don't let nothing get in your way, bro.
Where do you want to be in 5 years?
I want to play poker professionally. It's always been a dream of mine.
Why not just do it?
Not playing cards again, are you?
Dad had some issues and he doesn't like me playing anymore.
Every few months we try to get 5 or 6 people together and play what we call the deep stack. $15,000 buy-in, winner take all.
Well, I mean, I definitely want to play.
You know Tony's into poker? I guess he has some friends that are pros.
That's cool and all, but what you gonna say to Jackie or your dad?
He's been doing it behind my back.
I can see why we've been living all of these lives, and I know that you can see it too.
You gotta come clean with her, man.
I don't feel like you care about what I want.
Clearly, I don't know what that is anymore because you won't tell me.
I came here to prove that I'm a good player, win or lose.
Hey, something's wrong.
Well, we can't just go over there and expose him.
Well, we can't just sit here.
If we go in there, he's gonna kill Alan.
I don't like making the same mistakes twice.
All right, welcome back to Masters of the Microbudget, presented by Film Rogue. Real budgets, real decisions, and real lessons. Alex, thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Can you give me the elevator pitch for your film?
Yeah, so the elevator pitch is that it's a movie about a poker player that robs other poker players. Alan, the main character, basically gets wrangled into robbing some games. He's an aspiring poker player, and he has feelings for Jackie, who's the lead actress or the lead character, the other lead character in the film. And she's kind of got like this yearning to just do something more with life. And at this point in her life, she's found that robbing poker games kind of fulfills her a little bit. So she's kind of using Alan, manipulating him a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's just about an aspiring poker player that just gets into a bad situation.
Where did you come up with this idea for the movie? Are you into poker, or do you know somebody that is, or is it just sort of like something that just kind of landed?
I came up with the idea for the movie actually through my experience in playing Blackjack tournaments. So after I turned 21, my parents immediately took me to a casino and kind of fell in love. Probably not the most healthiest hobby at times, but I've had a lot of fun with it over the years. But I got really into Blackjack. I got tired of slots real fast. So I'm like, let's try some table games. I got really into Blackjack there for a while. And some of my local casinos were hosting tournaments. So I'm like, I'm going to just enter a couple of them, see how they go. And I actually placed pretty decently high in a few of them. Like there was like weekly tournaments, and then they had like a grand finale tournament. And on two separate occasions in the grand finale tournament, I won second place, which actually helped with a lot with the budget with the movie, because I just stashed that money away until I decided to make the film. And then just like one day, I used to work at a movie theater, and one of my coworkers mentioned that they thought I would have been great at like being an accomplice and robbing banks. I have absolutely no idea why. But I was like, I don't think I'd be great at robbing banks, but I might be okay at robbing poker games. And that kind of just lit a light bulb in my head. And, that was 2016. I wrote the scripts pretty much right after that. I wrote it very fast. I mean, I had multiple drafts of the script at that point, but, adding the robbery aspect didn't take too long. And then by 2017, we were shooting.
Did you do like a formal schedule for your shoot?
Depends what you mean by a formal schedule. If you mean that I just kind of wung it and, did some Excel scheduling. Yeah, I did that, but I didn't do like, I'm not Hollywood trained. I just kind of, figure things out through trial and error. So it was planned. Yes. So I think I initially planned for like an 18-day shoot between late February and early June of 2017. We totaled like 24 shoot days, but that included, like some half days, or like there's one scene we had to do a pickup scene because I shot in a casino, run and gun style, but my lawyer recommended I cut that scene out, so I needed something to replace it. So Tyler, the lead actor, and I just, we got together one night and shot a scene. So I technically called that a day, but it was probably close to like 20 shoot days total between the 3 months that we were shooting. But yes, I did try to plan it as much as possible.
What was your size of your crew?
It depended on the day. Most days it was probably like, cause I had developed a close knit group of friends in college in like the production, because I went to school for radio and TV broadcast. So that's where I met a lot of production people, and then they just kind of all just came with me, and we started making a lot of stuff together. So like nobody on the film necessarily had like a specific job. Like I gave a lot of my friends credits, sometimes credits they didn't deserve, quite frankly, but I was just very appreciative of what they did. The days that were easier on set was when I had a boom, like a sound team. I want to say that was probably like 5 or 6 days of the shoot, if I remember correctly. They came in a pair. They were extremely helpful. I would love to, have sound people in my movies for every shoot, but that's not always possible. So I would say, like minimally, it might just be me. And other days, it might just be 2 or 3 people. Other days, I could have up to 8 people, but those days were very rare.
What was the size of your cast?
The cast was about 60 people in total, and I'm counting all the extras and everybody who decided to show up. So I tried to build in what I would call like your set piece scenes, and just try to have like crowds and stuff. So like for an example, we shot at the movie theater that I worked at. I shot quite a bit there for the theater, just doing like random projects. So I got very good at kind of faking like a packed, not a packed movie theater, but like a hopping movie theater, if you will. So like the movie theater scene, I'd like to think that it's not super busy, but there's people going in and out. Like that day there was probably 10 people, and I just gave them all different jobs, and if we switched shots they would do different tasks. The restaurant scene, kind of the same thing, just moving people just to make the place feel full.
What was the budget for this movie?
There wasn't necessarily a budget, but I spent around a little over $15,000, the US dollars. So I think about a third of that was for production, and then the rest of that was for post-production. Obviously it's kind of a rolling cost, because like I still pay for the domain, I pay for a website, if there's some random marketing costs, like that stuff adds up. So it kind of like initially when I was finished with the movie, it was around 15, but kind of like over like it's been out since 2020. So, just costs just from, because I've been not necessarily promoting it, but I've been trying to keep it alive for the last 6 years. And unfortunately that's just not free. So it's a little over, I want to say it's like 15.5 right now, somewhere around there.
So this idea of you not having like a formal budget in the beginning, it's kind of sounding normal to me right now. What was your process in terms of like thinking about when you wrote the script? Was there anything that you knew you were going to have to pay for, or were you sort of like looking at it in terms of like what I know I can get free What was that sort of like financial process?
I call this movie Film School the movie, just because like this was it was a learning experience, and I wanted to just throw everything I could at the wall and just see what stuck. Like, I did a theatrical release, I did, the digital release, I did this, I did that. In one of my YouTube videos, I broke down like what I actually needed to spend, and I think it was like half of what I actually spent. But I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn as much as possible. Um, but I was also not naive. I knew I couldn't spend all the money because I was working when I started the film. I was part-time at a movie theater. By the time the film came out, I was full-time. But I'm like, I can't spend more than what I'm making. So pretty much just because I was living with my parents at the time, so just whatever I made that I didn't have to pay bills with. I didn't have very many bills just because I'm frugal, but also like I didn't have rent or a mortgage or anything like that like I do now. But I was like, I can't spend more. Like, I'm not willing to go into debt for this movie. Like, I know there's like the Kevin Smith approach of just like maxing out credit cards and all that. I went into debt once, and I'm like, I'm never doing this again. But I mainly use stuff that I had already used before. So if you watch a lot of my previous short films, like I said, I shot at the movie theater for years at that point, so I knew like what locations I wanted to use, how to do it. Like I just saw the shots in my head, which obviously saved me a lot of time. But I try to utilize as many free resources as I could, asking for favors. Like the pizza place that we did, James Peters, who played the dad in the movie, he worked at that pizzeria at the time that we were shooting, and the owner was gracious enough just to let us shoot there. It was a local place. The dance hall, like I had to rent that out, so that was an expense. But they were gracious enough to let me do that. I'd been gathering equipment for years, so like when I say $15,000, I already had a camera, I already had lights. Like I bought some things just because like hard drive space, I definitely didn't have enough. I think I shot like 12 terabytes of footage, so I didn't have that much storage at the time. So there was a few things here and there that I had to get, and I'm just talking in terms of production. So with production, I just I think I spent around like $6,000 on production. Most of that just went towards like props, costumes, the food to feed everybody. I paid for some travel expenses, hotels and gas and things like that. So I mean, it's pretty reasonable cost, especially if you break down the amount of days that I shot, 20 days. So that's pretty much how I kept the cost low, just because like I'd already shot at most of like 80% of the movie or things I've already done, so that saved me a lot of time and money.
You talked a lot about locations there. Do you know how many locations you had specifically?
I don't. I mean, we had the main location, which was, like I said, my father-in-law's place. We had the movie theater. We had the restaurants. We had and even parts of the restaurant were actually in the movie theater. Which that was a challenge, just because like I shot like the boss's office was actually in the projection room, so you could hear like the projectors running all the time. That was a hell of a sound to try and fight. I did a lot of ADR there. We shot in like different parks. We shot at, like I said, my dad's house, a friend of mine's house. Like the opening and the ending scenes, like where all the poker happens, is actually the same house. It's just one is in the basement, the other one's in the garage. I used my dad's house as like the exterior for the opening scene, and then for everything else, I used the exterior for the actual house where everything was taking place. So I'd say probably around 10 locations or so. There's, like I said, there's a bunch of random ones, but I'd say it was under 10 like primary locations.
And what did you shoot on? You said you already had equipment.
Yeah, so I shot on actually, I don't know if you can, my director hat right here is blocking it, but it's a Blackmagic 2.5 case.
Okay. Oh, the older.
Yep, the box camera, the very first one.
You had mentioned where the money came from. Was that where everything came from winning a tournament, or like was the second place you said?
Yeah, so I won second place in 2 different tournaments. I won before taxes. I won $2,000 in each of those tournaments, and I actually won another tournament. I've won like 4 I've played. Sorry, I didn't win. I've placed in 4 different blackjack tournaments. I almost won the two that I won $2,000 in, which that would have been real helpful because the top prize on that was $7,000. So that would have taken care of the entire freaking budget. So there was a little money from that. I was pretty good at saving money, but like I said before, when I was working at the movie theater, if I wasn't paying for bills, I was using that money that I was making from my job, just paying whatever I could. I wasn't like budgeting necessarily. It's just like, okay, what do I need right now and what can I afford? And then it was just kind of like rolling over from one month to the next. And that's how I did it for up until the movie was released.
Got it. Was there ever a point, because of the way that you were doing the financing of it, was there ever a point where you kind of ran out of cash?
Even if I did, I had credit cards. So, like, I think I paid for the entire, I mean, I used credit cards, but, I paid them off month to month, but I paid for the whole movie in cash. So, if you think about it, I said I spent around what, $6,000 between, the 20 days. So that's about 3 months. So I'm only spending about 2,000 a month, with that. And like I said, I had some money saved up and I bought some stuff before. So, that wasn't even just entirely during production. Like, even I was buying stuff, getting ready for the movie long before we were shooting. So that stretches it out even more. When it came to post-production, that was spread out because post-production took me from 2017 all the way to 2020. So that cost was stretched even not, yeah, between 3 years, so I had a lot more flexibility there. Most of that was front loaded. And then once I actually got to it was front loaded and then it was back loaded. Just cause like I did all the editing myself and, kind of the in-between stuff. I didn't have to pay much money aside from a couple subscriptions, but front loading because I paid for a colorist, back loading because I'd had all the theatrical expenses. So yeah, I mean, everything was pretty spread out. So I never had any money concerns, fortunately.
Okay, good. You just mentioned that you paid for a colorist. What was were you open to letting us know what that cost?
That was, I want to say it was under $1,000, but that was back in 2017. So I don't, I have no idea what that would be now. And to be honest, I wasn't completely satisfied with the coloring in the movie, so I ended up recoloring the entire thing myself. So I probably could have saved my money there, but like I said, I wanted that experience. I'm like, maybe I should work with somebody a little more experienced, but it just didn't feel the way I wanted it to feel. And I guess I just wasn't very good at expressing that. So I just, like I would say it's like, I don't want to say I recolored the entire movie. It was more like, I just kind of tweaked things here and there. So, his color job was kind of the on the top or beneath all the changes that I made.
And then you continue to work on it over the course of like 3 years, basically,
Yes.
to do a lot of all the rest of the post work, whether it was sound.
Primarily sound was the longest. I'd say of the 3 years, I want to say 2.5 of that was the sound.
All right. And you did all those tasks yourself?
Yeah, I initially had somebody helping me with it, but they weren't able to do it. So, we got a few months into it and they had to quit. So I took over. I had to start from scratch, which, was not great. But started over from scratch and just redid the entire thing myself. If I redid it now, there's going to be a running theme in here. If I redid everything now, it probably wouldn't take me as long just because I know a lot more now than I did then. But, like I had never really messed with sound, especially at that scale. Like I did everything in Adobe Audition. So I was trying to learn Audition at the same time I was learning just how to mix in general. So, the sound isn't great in the movie. But, I did the best I could at the time.
Did you ever at any point consider crowdfunding?
I have a strong philosophy around crowdfunding. I don't remember exactly my thoughts back then. I don't think so, just because I didn't want to. I just kind of wanted to make it. I'm just like, let's just do this. Now I have some strong feelings about crowdfunding. I have a pretty big philosophy that you need to build an audience for yourself and your projects and your film. And I think crowdfunding can fit into that if you've made a couple of films. I think it's harder to do when you don't have an audience. And I don't even mean just for the film, like it could be for the film too. So say you pick like a niche genre, like a a slasher film or something like that. You're going to have an easier time crowdfunding something like that, because for one, that crowd just loves supporting films like that. But let's say, you're making a 2-hour indie drama, like people are probably not going to support that outside of, local friends and stuff like that. So I'm at a point right now, it's like if I made like 5 films, maybe that might be a stretch, but like if my channel starts doing better and I build that audience, I'd be a lot more open to crowdfunding. But I think you need to have either an audience for yourself, or you need to be really good at marketing. So if you're a really good marketer, you can just ignore my advice. But if you're somebody like me who's more focused just on the filmmaking aspect of it, you really need to have an audience for yourself or for your film. Otherwise it's really hard.
Is there anything that you're doing in order to sort of like to build that audience?
So right now I'm not doing anything in particular, like with cashing out for myself. I've started I've had a YouTube channel forever, and it's gone through many different iterations. But the primary theme of my YouTube channel was just trying to build an audience for myself, just because like I don't make like niche down enough films to where those can kind of just live in their own bucket like they do. So I started my own YouTube channel, and I have this philosophy where if you give back, the universe will hopefully give back to you. So I'm just I like you, I do interviews with filmmakers, and I just try to give advice and listen to other people's stories and just try to figure out how to live in this crazy indie filmmaking world that we live in. And I've built a decent little following right now. I don't think it would give me enough confidence to do something like crowdfunding, but from my job, just because like I run a successful YouTube channel, not my own YouTube channel, somebody else's YouTube channel, but I run a channel that has a little over 850,000 subscribers, and we've made like an entire business out of this. And it's a niche down channel. It's basically like a reality TV show almost, if you will. But we've built this audience, and like if you've heard of the 1,000 true fan theory, like we're well beyond that. Like we've made like a very successful business out of that. So I'm trying to soak in a lot of information that I've learned from that, like just experimenting with email captures, like you had mentioned. Like I think email captures are great. Just organic marketing, I think, is the best route for anybody. Like even somebody at our scale, paid marketing is just not that useful.
For the folks that are listening to this, could you explain what you consider organic marketing?
Yeah, so just like posting on social yourself and trying to build an audience through your channels. So basically, like if I want to do some organic marketing, I would find the social media channels that make the most sense for the type of project that I'm doing. But finding, like, let's say like I wanted to try to promote this to like a poker community, I would go and figure out, where are poker players? Well, there's a ton of Facebook groups for poker players, so they're obviously on Facebook. I think there's Reddit threads for poker players, so Reddit would be another good place. I think Twitter is good for that. Instagram and YouTube tend to be pretty good, just dynamically for anything at this point. I probably wouldn't do Snapchat, because you also have to think about like who your target audience is. Like for me, I was targeting like people in my age group. Like I made the movie when I was 27, but I was kind of like 25 when I was writing it. So I was hoping that, my target audience would be from that age group. But I also threw in characters like the John Carver character, the boss character, who are more like John Carver is a poker player. So I was hoping, like having a character like him would appeal to more the kind of older poker demographic. So you need to figure out like who your demographic is and where they're living. And then from there, you just make social media posts, just post behind the scenes, post videos, post trailers, whatever. That's stuff that you are posting, and then whatever views you get, that's what you are getting organically. That's where the organic marketing is coming from. Paid marketing is where you're throwing ad dollars at it. So if I wanted to, and I've done this too, for cashing out, I put ads out on Facebook. I did these short ads um, to promote the movie, and it worked to a degree. But I have some other strategies I would like to test in the future, but that would be paid marketing. I don't think paid marketing works that well. I think there's a place for paid marketing, but I think organic marketing works the best when you are trying to build an intimate audience. For audience building too, you don't want to reach for everybody, because if you start reaching for everybody, like there are people who have seen my movie that it's just not made for. Like if you look at all the bad reviews for my movie on Amazon and IMDb, the movie wasn't made for them. They're probably expecting like some Hollywood level movie. I wanted to target at people who are, into indie movies, into poker, into, whatever that I was targeting at the moment. So, niching down and having a smaller audience isn't necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion, at this point. It's actually why I think like our bourbon social media channel is so strong, because we've found this tight knit community. And like it's a little bit harder for indie films, just because like with the bourbon YouTube channel, we're making content every week. You're making a movie once, so you're almost having to almost find a new audience every time you make a movie. Now I'm starting to understand why Hollywood does sequels and prequels and all this, because it's easier to market something that already has social proof.
You're absolutely right. I will ask though, how do you, when you're doing that kind of marketing, how do you gauge what is successful or not? How do you determine that when you do an organic like campaign or a paid campaign, what tells you that it was successful or not?
Well, obviously the amount of views. You have to also, when you are doing marketing, you need to set a goal, and different stages of your film are going to have different goals. So for an example, when you are starting out, maybe you're shooting the movie, maybe you're doing an Indiegogo or a crowdfunding thing, you're going to want to build awareness of the movie. So that, like, if I'm starting to like pay attention to what Hollywood's doing. So you'll notice they'll do like a short teaser sometimes. That's what I would call like an awareness campaign, where you're just making people aware. The biggest takeaway I want people to know, this is something I push on my channel all the time. People are not going to watch a movie that they don't know exists. So like Gary Vee, I don't know if you're familiar with Gary Vee. I've watched quite a few of his videos, but he has this retargeting campaign strategy that I wish I would have understood a little bit more when I was doing cashing out. But like he had this strategy where he would just throw a bunch of paid dollars at a video, and then he would do another ad later where he would retarget to people who watched 70% or more of the original video. And then he would put a call to action on that. Go buy this product, blah, blah, blah. That's how I'm kind of thinking about movies now. If I were to, redo this all, I would, organically, I would hope more people would watch the trailer. But let's just say I put out a teaser trailer and it got like 50,000 views. Well, you have to think a small percentage of those people who watched it are going to actually watch the movie. So then I would go in, okay, now I'm going to do an actual trailer. I'm going to target those people who watched the initial teaser trailer. And then I'm going to say, okay, I only wanted to show to people who watched 70% of the trailer, because if they watch 70% of the trailer, obviously they're probably interested.
Your cast and crew, the people that did show up, were they they were all free labor?
Yes. So I tried to help everybody out where I could. So a lot of times, like for the main leads, I like assisted with like paying for their gas, because like, a few of them were traveling from, like I live right outside of Chicago. So, I tried to utilize people in Chicago. I tried to utilize people in my area. But, like I had people traveling in from Indianapolis, which is about 2.5, 3 hours away from me. So like I would pay for hotels and stuff like that. Like I didn't want participating on my movie to cost them money. So like I made sure like it didn't cost anybody any money.
Let's talk a little bit about the numbers of what you did spend your budget on the sixth.
Sure.
I know you talked about food and things like that. Could you tell me what your highest expense line item was?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at my budget, so for production, looks like travel was my biggest cost. I spent about $1,300, and that's like I said, hotels, gas, and such. Next was craft services, which is a little under $1,000. So taking care of people were my two biggest expenses there. And then for post production, it looks like my lawyer was the biggest expense there, which obviously makes sense.
When you talk about a lawyer, what did you specifically use your lawyer for?
I don't know. I know that's a bad answer, but I'm like, I was watching a lot of videos, and they're like, "Lawyer up, baby," because if you get sued, it's not gonna be a good time. This is not legal advice. I probably didn't need a lawyer. A film of my size, like nobody's gonna come after you. Like people want to just make a quick buck. They're not gonna make a quick buck off me. But there's probably some missing paperwork that I should have done, and that may have just been out of inexperience. I don't know why I don't have those documents, but like I own the movie. Chain of title is just proof that you are the rights holder of your movie, which I had enough documentation to prove that. So I guess that suffices. But like she went through like a big concern I had was like all the logos in the movie through like just if like Coca-Cola is out on a billboard, do I have to blur that out? Do I have to cut that shot? Whatever. Just like stuff like that.
What was your most surprising expense that you had?
That's a good question. I don't want to say, I mean, obviously the lawyer was a lot. They gave me a huge, steep discount, but it was still a lot. Like I think I had like a $2,000 retainer when I started, and I blew through that pretty quickly.
And was that part of the 6,000?
That was a part of the, so 6,000 was production. Looking at my numbers here. So my production was 5,300. My post-production was 10,000, a little over $10,200. That was a part of the post-production cost.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. Looking at everything, I mean, nothing was really, like I said, nothing was really crazy. Everything was pretty spread out. Like I spent 500 in advertising, 500 in different apps, $1,000, a little under $1,000 on the colorist I mentioned. I spent about $600 on a DCP for theatrical.
Was there anything that kind of surprised you or like came out of nowhere that you had to end up paying for that you weren't planning to?
Again, probably the lawyer, but no, not necessarily. I'm trying to think. Like merch was a tough one too. Like merch is not something I recommend people do unless they. I would have done merch a lot differently, and I still would, like I did it the way I would do now, but I just would have done it a little differently. I would have simplified it a lot more. But like merch, like I spent about $1,400 on merch. That was my next cost, but I did a lot of print on demand, so it's like really, and I didn't really have to spend that money unless I made the money. There were some cases where like I did pre-print shirts, so I guess that was kind of, I mean, it wasn't a surprise expense necessarily, but that was an expense that I did have to pay for out of pocket, and I just didn't think it was worth it. I think there's some niches like people want to support. I think if you do small limited runs of like Blu-rays and DVDs and t-shirts, that's where I think crowdfunding makes a lot of sense.
So it sounds like it's more of like a time versus return on that, right? You're probably not going to sell a whole lot of merch, so the time that it takes to set all that stuff might not be worth it.
If you can strategize it right, I think it's worth the time, but I did not. Like I said, if you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, makes a lot of sense to do a small merch run. If you're making like a horror movie, makes sense to do a small merch run. If you are making a 2-hour crime drama, doesn't make a lot of sense to do a small merch run. Like maybe a couple t-shirts and posters for, like that's where like my local community supported me a lot. So that's where I sold the most merch. That's where it makes the most sense. Like if you can do like a screening or a few screenings or something like that at local theaters. I highly recommend selling merch there.
Was there anything that your budget determined that you couldn't do that you wanted to do?
The whole movie. The whole movie. Like I wish I had more robbery scenes. Like I took some inspiration from the movie The Town, the Ben Affleck movie, The Town. There's only 3 robbery scenes in that movie. There's one in the beginning, one at the midpoint, and one at the end. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do one at the beginning, one at the midpoint, and one at the end. Except the one at the midpoint, I had to imply that it was a robbery scene. I didn't really get to do what I wanted to do there. But like I any more money makes things better to a degree, but obviously just having constraints. Like I like working within constraints. But I can't name anything specifically. Like, I probably would have spent more money on lighting. I wish I would have lit things a little bit differently, just because some parts of the movie are super dark. Just because I learned the hard way that my Blackmagic camera's monitor was lying to me and how much light was actually coming into the camera. So there's some small things there, but nothing like, if I were to put $10,000 more dollars into cashing out, I don't know that it would be any better. And honestly, if I put $10,000 more dollars into it, it'd probably just be paying cast and crew. Actually, okay, let me reframe that. I thought of a better answer. I would pay for sound recordists. Any other, like, if it would be great to have a DP, it'd be great to have this or that for crew. I could do all that myself if I absolutely had to, but I would pay for a sound recordist.
Was there anything that almost broke the film? Anything that came about where it's like, came close to like abandoning, or just had to really pull something together?
The sound, I would say, is probably the biggest hurdle that made me want to quit. I'm a big believer that if I start something, I feel like I'm obligated to put it out. A lot of people don't share that philosophy with me, especially like I feel that way because if this many people took the time to work on my stupid little project, I feel like it's my job to put it out into the world, whether it sucks or not. But like the sound really nearly broke me, just because like we dealt with refrigerators and like I said, the movie projectors, and just not having just clean audio all the time, or sometimes the picture was a little bit blurry or the shots were too dark, and I'm just like, this is just, it was very frustrating because I promise you, anything I can point out, we could sit there and do a commentary or just watch the film together, and I can point out every single scene what I wish I would have done differently. Obviously I don't live like that anymore, just because it's not worth the time. But I still watch the movie. Like I'm a lot more gentler on the movie these days than I am. Like it's probably been a year or so since I've watched it, but like the last time I watched it, I was very proud of it. It was the first time I watched it in a few years. But like technical issues, like I'm a very technical person, so technical issues are always going to bother me, but I've kind of just learned to move on from them and just try and do better on the next film.
What do you think the smartest decision that you made was?
The smartest decision that I made? That's an interesting question. I think keeping the budget low was probably the smartest decision that I made, just because like, for one, movies like mine don't make a lot of money. I expected to make $0 on this movie. The fact that I've made what I've made, which I've made around a little under 13,000 of my 1550 budget left, 15,500 budget left. So I think I'm at, I can tell you the exact percentage that I'm at right now. So I've made 85.4% of my budget back. That is an astronomical number to me. I expected to make $0. I know people who have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and they've made less than I've made. So that's the fact that I've done that is miraculous to me, at least. Like I said, just keeping the budget low helped me a lot, just because one, there's just a lot less expectations on a movie like mine at such a low budget. But it's just easier to make the money back. If I could make the money back, that would be great. And I think that I'm just going to use that as, I don't even want to make the money back, but if I do, I'm just going to use it as a marketing ploy, because I could just be like, look, I made this dinky little film and I managed through whatever means that I did to make all the money
And I
back.
believe that you said that you spent 500 on marketing, or was there additional to that?
No, that was mostly on Facebook ads was the majority of
Okay.
that.
Okay. And did you do anything else that cost money in terms of marketing, or just the Facebook ads?
No, I did, like Facebook. I put together a Facebook page, I put together an Instagram page, and then I accidentally deleted them both. So definitely don't recommend doing that if you want to be good at marketing. But for paid stuff, no, I don't think so. Well, I guess like posters, because like I did a small theatrical release, so I got some posters made. Press, like, if I can go back to the free stuff, like I did a press release and I sent it to like local um, media outlets. I would probably change that strategy a little bit too, but I tried to send it to as many media outlets as possible. I tried to get the movie reviewed. I feel like that helped a lot. So I try to utilize free resources more than I did paid ones. Those are the ones top of mind that I remember.
What was it that you would change differently, that you said that you would do different?
The press release, yeah, I would just target it a little bit better, and I would honestly send it out to more. Like if it were up to, if I would have known what I know now, I would have sent it to every major publication, every small publication, every local news outlet. Like, hey, I'm this guy who made this movie. Try to get as many articles written about me as possible. Going on shows like this, trying to figure out and find podcasts that I can be a part of, whether it's about filmmaking or about just movies in general. Um, like I feel like there's a lot of outlets. There's more out. It's crazy because I released my movie in 2020, right before COVID, and there weren't as many resources for promoting your movie than there are 6 years later, which we're in the same decade. Like that's just, it's mind boggling to me. But like there's just so many more outlets now that I could have utilize. That's why I'm still promoting the movie 6 years later, because I can come on shows like yours and talk about it. And there's other podcasts I've been on, and then now I'm talking to a brand new audience. I thought about trying to build an email list. Doesn't make a lot of sense right now for the movie. I'm trying to build one maybe just for myself, but I haven't been great at promoting that. But there's a lot of outlets that you can use.
Was there any sort of marketing that you did that you feel like failed?
I feel like I could have done a better job at everything as a whole. And like I said, back then, I don't know what I know now, because, like I hadn't had any marketing experience up until that point. I hadn't had much social media experience up until that point. Now I have 6 years of it under my belt. So, just like, even I know I kind of got in the weeds a little bit with some specifics, but I just know more now than I did back then. So like, even if I did Facebook ads, I didn't really do them properly, so I would change just the strategy there a little bit. Like, I didn't know what brand awareness meant. I'm just like, I want people to watch my movie, so I need to do an ad where people click. But I really should have done like an awareness campaign to just get eyeballs, like, to my Facebook and Instagram page, because if they click follow, that means they're interested. And then I can do a separate ad or a post later about like watching the movie, and that can get them to convert. Like, I didn't really understand all that stuff like I do now. So, that took me a lot of time to understand. So like, I wouldn't say anything necessarily failed. Like, like I said, film school, the movie, I was just there to learn and just trial and error. But of course, when you look hindsight 2020, you're like, okay, I would have done this different. I would have done this different. And there's just, I have a million examples of that.
Let's talk a little bit about the distribution path. You said that you had a premiere. You
Yes.
did do some marketing for that community as part of it. Why did you choose to do a premiere in that way that cost you money? How did the film benefit from it?
So the movie came out in January of 2020. I did a premiere, a free screening in 2019 where I rented out two theater. Or it was one theater. I rented out one theater. Actually, I don't even know if that cost is in my budget. I think they gave me a discount, so that might be one of my miscellaneous costs. But I rented out a theater and I promoted the hell out of it. And I'm like, come see this movie. You don't have to pay for it. Just come see it. And that's actually where I captured emails. I should have done a better job with do a better method of everything with that. But I did capture emails through that method. So that it's an easy way to capture emails is if you invite people to watch your movie for free. But that was just to get people interested, and I wanted to say, like, I think like 150 people showed up to that, so like I got photos of that. So I kind of used that as marketing material, especially because I talked to a lot of press and we would talk about that. And then once the movie actually came out, so the story of how I got a theatrical release is I used to work at a movie theater, as I mentioned. I wasn't planning on doing a theatrical release, but we had this annual meeting between all the theaters. We would go to one hub and just do boring corporate stuff. But my boss, who's very supportive of me, he's still supportive of me to this day, and I haven't worked there in 6 years. But my boss at the time, he's like, you should go talk to them about running your movie. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's not going to hurt. So I did that, and they're all about supporting filmmakers. Like it was it wasn't like an AMC or anything like that. The chain was smaller. It's not around anymore. They went out of business, which is why I don't work there anymore. They went out of business. But basically they're like, yeah, we can do this, and they let me screen it in 50 as many cities as I wanted, but they let me screen it in 15 cities for free, and I was able to keep all the box office revenue. I didn't see almost any of that revenue because like I said, it went out of business, but that was a nice perk for a minute and a half. But I figured it was worth, like I said, I wanted to just get that experience. Like I needed to learn how to market to these different regions. Like my hometown was easy. Like I did a bunch of screenings there, and people, like I had like 30 people show up on a random Wednesday night, which was flabbergasting to me. But I had to learn how to market to different areas. I guess that was the biggest failure, if I had one, is I wasn't very good at marketing outside of my local community. I didn't really spend a lot of money promoting. I just stuck to organic for that. But like, 'cause I didn't sell very many tickets other than my local theater. But that taught me a lot of lessons. I really only paid for like the DCP, which is the hard drive theaters run movies off of, some posters, and backup Blu-rays, and shipping all that stuff. So it cost me around $1,000 probably, give or take, between all of those items. But like I said, it was worth it to me just for the experience. I wouldn't do it again. I might do like something at my local theater again, like maybe like a one night only screening, like a special event. Like I'm very big on special events, are very a great just strategy in general.
So, did you decide to do any film festivals after your premiere or before the premiere, even? I guess.
I did film festivals before the premiere. I wanted to get that out of the way, so that was part of the reason why I waited to release it, is I wanted to. I shot for the moon on some. I can't remember how many festivals I submitted to. I spent around $1,000 on festivals total, and that included the Film Freeway Gold subscription to get discounts on some festivals. I have no idea if that saved me any money, but I'm just going to pretend like it did for the sake of argument. I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with film festivals. I think they are important for marketing. I don't think I think a lot of filmmakers have this this skewed reality where they're going to go to a film festival and they're going to get noticed, and that's just not going to happen, unfortunately, unless you just win the lottery, and most of us don't. So that I've kind of had a sour taste in film festivals, but I think having the laurels and the awards for marketing purposes, like that, gives you some social proof. Like people aren't going to, like, the average viewer is not going to go to the festival website and see how legitimate that festival is.
Right.
But they are going to see, it won best feature at something, and I know the leaves on the side, like I've seen those before, like I know that means something. So I think that is important for social proof. So I think festivals, you should absolutely do festivals and try to win awards, but don't do too many festivals. Don't put too many laurels on your poster and your trailer and all that, but win some awards because it is important.
That's excellent marketing advice. You mentioned transitioning from marketing into distribution a little bit further. You talked about you went with Filmhub. Did you look for any traditional distributors? Did you ever play with the idea of just releasing it yourself without an aggregator, or was Filmhub always like top of your list?
This is another piece that I would probably do a little differently next time as well. So initially, like, I wanted to go through distribution just to get that experience, even if I got a crappy deal. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to make any money. As long as it wasn't costing me money to do it, it's like, okay, whatever. I got approached by a predatory distributor, and that kind of pushed me into wanting to do it on my own. I had heard about Filmhub through Alex Ferrari's Indie Film Hustle podcast. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And I feel like this is like, this makes sense to me. So I'm like, okay, let's give this a look and kind of go from there. So I didn't start Filmhub until a couple months after I released the movie. So I did DVDs myself, like I had mentioned. I put the movie on Amazon myself. So initially, like, I did a VOD, a TVOD released transactional video on demand, where people could buy and rent your film. I did that on Amazon myself for the first few months, Blu-rays and DVDs, and I did the theatrical. I did all of that myself. I considered doing something like Vimeo. I forget, Vimeo OTT. I do have a Vimeo OTT channel. It's not that successful, but I thought about just doing that as opposed to, like, that's kind of the all else fails plan. If I didn't have anything else, I would have just sold it through there as well. But I decided to give Filmhub a try. I can't remember for the life of me when I started, but it was a few months after the movie came out, and just threw it on there. I was like, let's just see what happens. It didn't do much for a long time, and then I got on Tubi, and that's kind of when everything changed. So the majority of the money that I made back has come from Tubi.
For those that are listening, obviously, getting onto Amazon in that way and other platforms in that way is kind of gone now.
Yes.
But with Filmhub at that time, they didn't have the subscription model. They didn't have the premium QC stuff. So it was a lot easier to process that kind of thing. Yeah. And how much longer was it before it landed on Tubi?
I want to say it was like a year and a half or 2 years.
Wow.
So it was.
So that means that they were still pitching it that long down the road.
Yeah, they haven't pitched it. I guess I've run dry on platforms. That I haven't gotten any new platforms in quite some time. But yeah, I'd say up to like year 3, they were still pitching platforms.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Nice. And do you pay for a subscription with them now, or is it still just a free tier? I will
never pay for a Filmhub subscription. I plan on doing a YouTube video where I didn't even want to distribute my short film. I don't have another feature to distribute. Otherwise I would just try it. But sometime after June, when my latest short film gets released from the 48-hour film project, I'm going to distribute it on Filmhub. And because I've heard of all the nightmare horror stories, so I'm going to do a firsthand experience on, if this is, as the kids say, fact or cap. So we will see if it's really that difficult, or if, because I do a lot of Filmhub tutorials, and I'm like, guys, if you do everything I say, you should be able to get on Filmhub, even with the free program. It might take a while, so I'm going to do a firsthand. I normally try to shoot my videos all in one day, but I'm going to go through the whole process, and I'm going to wait until the thing is live or it just didn't work out, and I'm going to report the whole process.
Very cool. Did you have to spend any extra money on any of the deliverables that they needed, like captioning, anything like that?
Well, I did spend money on captioning. Because Amazon requires captioning. That was something I kind of already expected, and I wanted closed captions. Closed captions were a lot cheaper back then when I did it. So I spent like $120. It was like less. I think it was $1 a minute when I did it on. Oh man, Rev. Yep, I did it on Rev. Now it's a lot more expensive. So it didn't cost me very much. But I did the closed captions. I did the posters myself. I did the just all the deliverables I did myself. So it didn't really, aside from the captions, nothing really cost me anything else.
Getting into some of the recoupment, I believe you said eight something. Could you repeat your?
So I made 85.4% of the budget back at this point. It looks okay. So I've made 13 up to this point, and this doesn't include the $10 I made recently on Filmhub. $13,312.22, and I have $2,276.33 remaining.
Amazing. All right, very cool. And you said Tubi is the biggest driver of that, correct?
Yeah. So if I can break that down a little bit, I can give you exact numbers if you'd like. But on Prime, I made a little over 1,600. On merch, I made a little over 2,700. I did Amazon's. The Amazon used to have a print on demand Blu-ray thing. Made $5 on that. I don't know. I mean, it's there. About $225 on donations. Filmhub, I've made 85, almost $8,600. Another distribution platform, I made $15. Other, which I have no idea what other is, but other, I made $23. The screenings, I've made $25.59, and I'm talking about the theatrical screenings. So I actually grossed 19 or $1,912.88, and I recouped $25.59 of that because the theater went out of business, and of course I wasn't going to get paid any more money after that. And Vimeo, my OTT platform, I made $850. So with Filmhub, that's not all Tubi, but I'd say like 95% of it's probably Tubi.
Okay, your merch number was pretty good. I'm surprised you quit that, unless that was just
it just stopped sales. Sales just
Yeah.
stopped. Yeah, I mean, it's like at some point when you're not selling T-shirts, like I guess like if it's not costing you any money, it doesn't hurt to have a store up. But like I just didn't see the point at that time. So like I like to be active in things. The majority of that came from, so when I did my free screening, free, I guess free is never free, but after the screening, I set up a little kind of like merch nook where I sold T-shirts and Blu-rays and stuff like that. So I made a ton of money that way. I did a Comic-Con where I sold some T-shirts and Blu-rays and such, and then I sold a little bit online after its initial release. But like I said, that fizzled out pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm not going to lie, I did the majority of that. I believe is Blu-rays, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't want to just like scoff at that number. But the effort, if I would have put more effort into it, it probably would have been worth it.
What do you think filmmakers should stop romanticizing?
The Hollywood dream in general. Like I was pretty realistic in my journey altogether, even from a young age. Like I've been doing this, so I really started taking filmmaking seriously in college. So when I was about 20 or so, like just like I'm gonna make this a career. Like I always wanted to make it a career. My parents tried to skew me in other directions, but at some point I was just like, I'm going to make this a thing one way or another, and you are not going to stop me. I realize I'm probably not going to be in Hollywood, but Hollywood is not exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be like an independent filmmaker. I wanted to do things my way. And so I kind of like gave up like the typical Hollywood dream, if you will. Like I'm probably never going to direct a Hollywood movie. I don't even know if I'll direct another feature film to begin with. I would like to, but I don't know if it'll happen. But romanticizing just like the perfect movie, the perfect shot, the perfect budget. I need to do this and that. Like, I think that stunts just progress and just going out and doing things. Like I'm a very actionable person. That's just how I've always been. So, like I don't romanticize like just perfection anymore. It's just like, do I want to do this or not? And I'm going to do it by any means necessary. Also, like I know we've talked a lot about like the financial aspects of filmmaking, but I'm also of the mindset now, like if I never made a dollar from filmmaking ever again, I would be okay with that too. Like I think part of you needs to be okay. Like if you're going to spend $10,000 making a feature film, like I think you need to just be okay with never seeing that money again and just being happy with the product that you put out. Because if you're making a movie for $10,000, more than likely you're making the best product that you can make for your skill level and the amount of money that you have. So like I'm a very big mindset person, and I know a lot of people like just romanticize the perfect just anything, and I think it stunts people's progress a lot of times.
If you went back to the very first day before that camera rolled, right, you step on a set, and you could whisper into your ear some sort of piece of advice before you start rolling, what would it be?
Be kinder to yourself. Don't make like I made the movie that I wanted to make, but I was so caught up, and this kind of goes into what we were just talking about on the last question. I was so concerned with making something good and not just something that I would be proud of. Like I was so hard on myself in my 20s. Like I need to make something good. What does that even mean? I still can't answer what that means. But for me, my definition was I really wanted to be like a Robert Rodriguez, like we were talking about, or a Quentin Tarantino, or a Kevin Smith. Like I idolized the indie filmmaking boom of the 90s. Like I'm a 2000s, like I was a teenager in the 2000s. Like these are the guys from that time era. We were still talking about that. That's all the DVD commentaries that I was watching. And, I was like, if I'm not good, then I'm never going to be like these people. And that stunted me from doing a lot of things that I wanted to do, and just like my thought process, and just how I wrote movies and how I made movies. So I would just say to myself, and I still struggle with this to this day, this is something I have to whisper to myself every day now, just be kinder to yourself and just do it for the love of the game and not anything else.
I love that. It's a great perspective to have, man. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.